Okay, I think we are more or less ready. Let's start on time. So again, hello everyone. Thank you for coming on today's webinar. We will officially start this session. The topic of this webinar is what's new in 3D Survey 3.0. It's one of our biggest release of 3D Survey history, and we are super excited to share all those news with you. Thank you all for coming, and feel free enjoy this webinar. If there are some questions, write them in question box. We'll answer them at the end of this webinar. The webinar is going to be recorded. Later on, you will see the recording. And yes, today, most important technical team is with you. So today, Vit is with us, Mattia and Marco. So probably most of us, you already know us via the webinars, exhibitions, or similar events. We are happy to share this exciting news with you today and help you out with the knowledge base and everything. What's today's plan? A lot of good new things. So the greater news is 3D Survey 3.0 is out. Beside the general improvements, we have also two available models as adds-on, which you can purchase as a subscription base to the main license. The first one is scan model, the another one is RTK model. So what's the story of 3D Survey is, so beside the photogrammetry engine, we would like to be the integrator of different devices. This is the 3D Survey philosophy from the very beginning, and because the product is more and more complex, we would like to start with model approach to keep the simplicity of the product, actually. More advanced users or users with specific tasks will now have the option to add specific function to their core software 3D Survey, and other can still enjoy the simplicity of the product. And as you will see it later, how we integrate this in a single package, you will see it's quite powerful. Okay. And before we continue with next step, I would just like to replay just a second, a short teaser video about two new scan and RTK videogrammetry model.
Watch out, it's quite loud.
Watch out for this. Okay. Hopefully the sound was not too strong for you, but a bit to wake you up with this presentation and continue with a more detailed description. What does it mean? Everything. So if we go more in details, so first you will see the general 3D survey improvements where we have new coordinate system upgrade. I would just like to say here coordinate system for all. We will present you these new improvements. It's super interesting for some specific countries and super nice for all of the users with the presets option and everything like that. Then I will take over again with the automatic machine deactivation. Super nice feature to release the license and activate it on another computer. Then we have a clip function for point cloud mesh and orthophotos. You will also see then maybe smaller improvements like balloon fix, additional color maps, and script engine. Then Mattia will take over and present us the entire scan model, all interesting functions which are inside. Let me go directly to our web page. Hopefully you can see it. With 3D Survey release, we also fully renew our 3D Survey web page. So a lot of interesting material on this page. And here you can nicely see that beside the basic product, 3Dsurvey with a lot of interesting features. Now you have also add-on models, and the first one is, for example, scan model, which is super powerful in case you need to merge data from different devices. So let's say photogrammetry, videogrammetry, LiDAR scan, sonar, or anything like that. We have manual registration function inside. We have automatic registration. Advanced X-ray views are in this module. Then you have different additional attribute visualization based on intensity, based on scanning time, return data, and more. And then last but not least, also orthophoto from point cloud is possible to calculate it. Mattia will present you the complete model in a short future. And the second model, which is going to be presented at the end from me, it's actually RTK videogrammetry model, a super powerful tool for quick documentation with your mobile phone and maybe as an add-on external RTK antenna. We will check where are the user applications for this technology. Addition to the improvement in the software, we developed 3Dsurvey site scan app, which is an Android-based app. So if you have an Android phone, you can just install it and start working with this one. If you add on an RTK antenna in addition, you will get even greater accuracy, and everything you can start using if you buy this RTK videogrammetry model as an add-on to the main 3Dsurvey license. Okay, this was the short intro to today's webinar, and I would love to go to the first super important one, so new coordinate system upgrade. Vit, will you please take over and start with presentation of your part?
Thank you, Marco. So I will just go ahead and make myself presenter, and now you should start seeing my computer monitor.
Perfectly, we can see it.
Up here. So right, we designed the new coordinate system with two goals in mind. The first one is to make the setting up coordinate systems simpler for the average user, and second, to make it also more powerful. So from now on, when we load the images, the coordinate import will look like this. So by default, we have set the coordinate system to the WGS84 coordinate system preset. To set coordinate system to your specific country, the easiest way to achieve that is to simply start writing your country name in here. So for example, this data set is from Belgium. So I can select here Belgian Lambert, and this automatically sets the horizontal coordinate system to the appropriate one. Vertical coordinate system, it also sets the correct input coordinate system, that is the coordinate system the telemetry data is in. And finally, if additional files are needed for transformation from the ETRS to, for example, Belgium, then these files will be automatically downloaded and applied, making the transformation accurate. So if we press import now, the data is successfully imported. And we have here latitude, longitude, and altitude. And here are already the projected coordinates in appropriate state coordinate system. If we repeat this process just one more time, of course, you can still set all of these things manually. So I can go in here and I can select from any applicable vertical coordinate system, for example. And here we also still have all the world coordinate systems. So you can also, if you start writing the coordinate system name in here, you can also select it from this list, just like you did before. In that case, we have custom coordinate system. Right, let's keep that. and go to example number 3. So finally, we also have now support for importing custom PRJ files with coordinate system definition. So for example, in Germany, you have special correction files that are specific to each state. So for example, if I load now in photos from München area, I can then select here import PRJ and select the German PRJ file like that. And now the corrections will come from this German GeoIT model and horizontal corrections files for the Bayern. And that's it. And lastly, here the coordinate system, we can now also export the coordinate system definition. So if we save this coordinate system here in this file, we can then edit that file and change, for example, the txt file, which will, for example, which corrections file will be used or something like that. I don't want to go into too much details. There is also a quick tutorial on this subject. And now back to you, Marco.
Thank you, Peterman. I would just like to mention here, in addition, maybe that there is no more need to download the coordinate system from our web page. This is fully integrated now in the software, so all Shift, Grid, and GeoIT files are automatically downloaded via our system, so it's much easier also for the user interface. And please give us your feedback about the coordinate system. Check it out. If there are some presets not inside in the software, feel free to write us on a support email. We will check it, and then with the future version, we can add those support of the presets for the most important coordinate system in the main versions. Yes, thank you, Vit. I will take over and start with my next presentation. So screen, probably can you already see my screen? Okay, so we saw the coordinate system upgrade. The next one is automatic machine deactivation feature, which is a small one, but super important one, because one customer per week, we get a question, okay, can you please deactivate my computer? I'm out on a field or I'm on another office and the license is not free. And what you need to do today is, after we finish this webinar, turn on your 3Dsurvey, upgrade it to a 3.0 version, and then you will have here under the options, application settings. Now you have additional checkbox here, automatic machine deactivation. Check out this checkbox, and this will mean that after you close down the 3Dsurvey, the license is immediately free. And when you return from office to home and you would maybe like to process your data from home, the license will be immediately free for you, so you can still use it. In which situation you shouldn't check out this one, or you deselect this one, is if you plan to travel, I don't know, 1,000 kilometers away from the internet, from anything where you don't have internet connections, then don't use this feature, because when you will come to the field without internet, you're not probably able to use the license, okay? But in any other situation, do check, select this chat box, and the license immediately deactivated when you turn off your 3Dsurvey, okay? And the next one feature from the general 3Dsurvey improvement is super nice one, clip function for point cloud, mesh, and orthophoto. And I would like to demonstrate you this one on this task. So here you can see we map a road in a distance of 1.5 kilometers or something like that. It's a nice vine region in Slovenia. I already used my 3Dsurvey CAT integrated engine to connect closed polygon line of my area of interest. And what I can do now with this closed polyline, I can clip my data based on this selected area and just share those results to your end customers. So we know sometimes when you map a road, railway, river, or anything like that, you get always much wider area. If you fly in 80 meters, you immediately get a wide of 100 meters, and maybe you don't want to share the entire results with your customers because they just pay for the specific part, or the data are too complex, too heavy to share it. And with these features, you can super nicely show the area you would like to share or you would like to clip, and then it works the same on point cloud, mesh, or orthophoto. So you just go, for example, an orthophoto name, right mouse click, clip, you select your layer where you have your closed polyline, calculate, and in a couple of seconds, you get additional orthophoto, which is clipped exactly based on this polygon, okay? The procedure is fully the same actually for the point cloud. It's the same for the mesh and anything. So super easy and efficient actually. During this is processing, maybe I just return to my PowerPoint, and here we have 3 additional smaller improvements like balloon fix, additional core maps, and script engines. Because I don't want to spend too much time on this one, I would like to show you where those explanations are located on our website. And if you go here under the Insights, Software Updates, you will have here the topic, what's new in 3Dsurvey. Just click on Read More. And here is everything nicely described also on our webpage. We already see the coordinate system. We see the automatic machine deactivation, how it works. Currently, we are in clip function presentation. Here you can already see the clip results. And the 3 smaller ones are balloon fix. So what does it mean? Sometimes when you generate a full 3D mesh with texture, because you have a lot of side photos, you get a kind of balloon effect, then you need to manually delete them, and you see then the end results, what you would like to see. This is now solved. We eliminate this kind of balloon automatically, so no more additional work for you. Then we have additional color maps. Beside the standard hide maps options are now available. Also 2 more addition. You can check them also later on, no problem. And we also upgrade the script engine in case you are using script engine. Just to let you know, no, it's updated. All functions are again with the script engine, and feel free to use them. Okay, here I already have my results, and you can see the orthophoto is cut exactly by the line where we would like to have them. Let me just go here and turn off the cat that we can see it again. And now you're able to share exactly the results you would like to share with your customers. And the same, it goes with the mesh. Just right mouse click, find the clip feature here inside. Again, select the layer you would like to select. You can have multiple layers. Also, if you have multiple stockpiles and you can cut them out, you can use this feature in numbers of different scenarios. Okay, and of course, the same goes with point cloud and everything. Okay, if there are some questions, feel free to set them in question box. We will answer them at the end of the presentation. We are now finished with the general 3Dsurvey improvements. So those are the improvements who get every customer which have valid support and upgrades or subscription-based 3Dsurvey. If you run out of your upgrade and support, feel free to log into 3Dsurvey web store, log in, find your license, and you will see how to upgrade it and so on. Okay. I think we are ready for the presentation of our first blockbuster scan module. Mattia, are you ready? Can you take over, please?
Sure, ready. Hello,
Okay,
fans, friends, and everybody else. Marco, thank you for this intro. Yeah, let's check out this so-called blockbuster. It's our, let me just share you my screen. So as Marco mentioned, one of our two new modules. So as you see, the version 3.0 is now officially out.
Very good.
Just a second, so I get my monitors right. Okay, this one will be better. Okay, this is the scan module, and it comprises of a lot of things. It's not just one, but it gives full support to users who'd like to use more of scans, LiDAR scanners, laser scanners, all that sort of stuff. But it expands also the possibility of photogrammetry as it is. So it's not limited to scanners. It also gives a lot of improvements to our regular users. But with more and more scanners oversaturating the market, we wanted to take that step in this direction to support the possibility of combined workflow. So if I begin with a feature I personally like the most, this is the X-ray views feature. So what this gives you is perhaps you already know the X-ray orthophoto. This is an old feature that has been in 3Dsurvey for a few years now. It will give you the plan of walls of buildings and any vertical structures. We expanded this now to not just top-down view, but also side view from north to south or left to right, however you want to call it. So I will show you this practical example. Here we have this great scan-made point cloud that is made out of 99 millions of points. It is colored point cloud done with SLAM, and it has the interior and exterior of this complicated building. Now, if we would like to do some vectorization on this one, it would be pretty hard. Even though there's 99 millions of points, you cannot draw very easily along those curved and not so strong lined edges. That's why you use the X-ray function, which you will find up here. This is now added. So go to X-ray views and calculate new X-ray views window. So this little wizard comes up. It's the known window. It's been the same for the X-ray orthophoto. It has the three main parameters. So first is the point cloud you would like to use to calculate. And then there is a resolution, how big of a pixel you would like to generate the image. And the most important one, perhaps, is the color transparency. So keep in mind, the greater transparency, the lesser the impact of a single pixel is, of a single point. So if you lower the transparency, each point will have greater density and it will make lines thicker and brighter. So for most cases, we can keep that at about 70, which is default. And if I click generate here, this will take about 5 to 10 minutes on this computer. So I will skip this and just show you what I've already done. So I've used settings transparency at 70 default, and the resolution I cranked up to 0.5. So this is my top-down view. the X-ray functionality flattened all the points of this point cloud to this sort of plane. And it looks pretty impressive. What is added with this module now is the north and south aligned point cloud and the east and west axis image also. But we have also another option to move from here. For example, we can create our own custom layouts and drawings. I will show this in a second. So if we wanted to vectorize one of the levels of this building, let's say. So let's go here. Let's take the second level. We just click once, drag, and then when we're ready, we release. Okay. And so this will be now the, and we use the red line as the ground. So if I move it up, this will be my ground level now. And all the vectorization will snap on that. And with the yellow space, I define the buffer zone, which includes the points. So I define points that I want to include with this yellow. And as you know, now I have only selected the upper level of this building. Okay, now I will just confirm this. And we give it 10 or 20 seconds to generate this. What this will give me now is a top-down X-ray image of just the second floor. So if I turn these two off, now I can compare the first image to this newly generated image. And you see this is now isolated second floor. And this looks very nice. I can start my vectorization immediately. And I actually will. I will just select this line tool here, and it will activate my currently selected CAD layer, and I can start drawing like this. Let's neglect the windows, and I will vectorize my first room. When I get back to the start, it snaps on the first point. So let's do another one. This is really quick. So I just go around, click, and if I make a mistake, backspace will delete my last vertex. Go around, click some more. So here is our second room. And I could continue this on and on. But I think you get the picture. And one more thing I would like to emphasize. Remember when we were dragging that red line, which defines the level where our vectorization snaps. So this is now, just a second to demonstrate. When I click somewhere, anywhere, and I go around, this, it changes X and Y of the point, but the Z coordinate remains the same. If you see here in the middle, if I move it around here, it moves, but if I'm on the right pane, it stays on the level I defined. So all your vectorizations will be leveled at the same Z coordinate, which is very practical if you want well, your plan to be flat. Okay, so let's perhaps do that one. Let's perhaps do another one, and I will show you a bit more variety to this feature. So what if we wanted to make a facade? It's easy. Then you define the new layout on this top-down. So this is the edge of the building. Therefore, it is facade, and we drag it along here. What we have to be careful here is not to include the inner walls. So move this buffer out a bit. This one can be like that. And if I confirm that, we will notice one distinctive feature of this point cloud. So this is not super visible as I perhaps wanted it to be. That is, if we go back to when I was explaining the 3 parameters of this feature, so this is resolution and transparency. Transparency of 70% doesn't give you enough for the for this certain point cloud because it was focused on the inner walls.
So it's connected. It's connected probably with the density of the point cloud.
Exactly. Because it's not so dense on the outside, we got a bit sparse point cloud and a bit weak lines. But for those cases, I tried to go with transparency of 40, which gave me oversaturated image on the interior. But I repeated this step on the facade, and it gave me this very nicely defined arcs and windows. And this made vectorization also much more easy. And now I would like to present to you what we were able to do. So this is what we vectorized before. And if we wanted to do everything, well, we did beforehand. So these are the 2 levels of the building. And then we also did the outside. Let me just turn it on. So these are the windows, arcades, facade, and all of that. So we vectorized it all on those layouts that were created with X-ray views. And if I go back here, I can see those exact lines where this was done.
So everything what you are collecting, what you are drawing on X-ray views, you can immediately see in 3D. If you switch between tabs, everything is connected. And the beauty of this one is also that those data are on a single plane, so they are really nice organized. So you actually convert complex 3D point cloud to simple 2D image. On base, you do the vectorization and come to the end results easy way.
Yeah, exactly. You have one less axis to worry about. If you know that your floor is, well, flat, then there's no need to worry of the height of every point.
Exactly. When you connect the floor plans, you need to have all points most of the time on the same plane. So it just helps you to do this with a complete point cloud. Very good.
Yeah, it's a very nice feature. And now I'll go to the next feature, which is probably something you would do a step earlier. So if you have point clouds, let's say out of a laser scanner that came out unregistered, so they were not connected together to form a complete, let's say, building, you have to register them by hand. And I would like to show you the video. The videos here play much smoother than our screen. So are we ready? Here we go. Right. So first of all, what you have to do is load your point clouds into 3Dsurvey. In this case, we have 4. And now we will register them 2 by 2, because that's how it's done. So they all fall to the same center, but they are not rotated right and translated right. And that's why we use this manual registration down here. And now we will register those point clouds based on set of identical points. So these are points that you see on both point clouds. So this is, for example, our headquarters that was done from standing point 1 on the left and standing point 2 on the right. and they have sufficient overlap to find 3 identical points on them. So first of all, zoom into the vantage point of those point clouds and then start picking identical points. So this corner here on the entrance is an obvious choice. It was easy to find on both of them. Then the second one will pick up here. You can also choose a different pixel size. So that you can do for each point cloud separately. All right, now we have picked 2, and keep in mind it's best for accuracy wise that they are not all on the same plane. The third one will pick on the car to move it out of the facade. So let's pick the headlight, the corner here. And now we can inspect the error numbers. So here is the 3D error. You can see it's all below 2 millimeters, so 2 centimeters, which is a very good number, a very small error. I have fixed the Z-axis because both of point clouds are on the same level. Now we'll just click register, and now we can already see the preview. If we toggle on and off the point clouds, you see they now fall together nicely. They have been aligned. Before you confirm, keep that checkbox off. I will explain in a minute why. And here is the result. We have aligned 2 point clouds just like that. Just 3 points, and they fall together nicely. You could use 4 or more, but 3 is the minimum, and you can see it's pretty good. Now, if I skip to the automatic registration, I will just pause a bit here. Okay, so when we complete the process of automatic registration, we perhaps want to check out the accuracy of our transformation of our registration. This is the easiestly done in a way if we check for double walls. So we have used here the tool bounding box and sliced our building up so we can just see the section of our walls, and we can see here on the left that the walls are double, which means we had some error, and now we will show you how you can minimize that error with automatic registration. So if I continue, we have selected the point clouds, and because they are different point clouds, they have different colors when selected. And here's that double wall I was talking about. You can increase the point size to see it better. And there's another trick how to visualize that even better, which I'll show in a minute. So you have just the point clouds in question. And what you can do is you give them a specific color that is like temporary, just for visualization. So we'll make the first one yellow, and the second one will color magenta. This is very contrasty choice, and now you can clearly see the discrepancy between them, and we'll even measure it so we can compare our results. So take the measurement tool, and we'll choose 2D distance because we're not interested in a vertical difference because Z-axis was actually locked. So now we just want to see how much difference there is between those 2 walls, and there we have our measurement. Now we will go to actual automatic registration, which will bring 2 point clouds closer together. They have to be at least partly aligned so that the algorithm recognizes the position and tries to bring certain features of both point clouds closer together. And this process can take between a minute and an hour, depending on number of point clouds, on the number of points in those point clouds, and also the difference. Okay, and this was the first round of iterations. You can already see how good result we got. This took about a minute or two. It was sped up, as you saw. But if you're still not happy with the end result, you can go another round and perhaps choose a bit of different settings. We choose precise now. Just run it again, give it a minute or two, and this time you'll see it will bring it like dead close together. And we don't have double walls anymore.
Very nice. Very nice.
So eliminated the error. We can turn off the false color now and see how our end result now looks. And this is our headquarters, comprised of 4 point clouds registered together, all in 3Dsurvey. And as mentioned, this is the scan module, which continues with that we already saw. Yeah, I will quickly show you the additional attributes you can now visualize on your point clouds. Just let me switch back to the monitor one.
Okay, Mattia, perfect. So we can say that if you're doing automatic registration, it's great that you have roughly aligned those scans, let's say 20 centimeter in a difference is kind of maximum. Closer they are, better it works, faster it is. So it's always great to do first the manual registration and then later do the automatic registration to do the fine tuning. And don't forget, so it's not just for terrestrial scanners. It's also if you have, let's say, photogrammetry data and in addition videogrammetry data, and you would like to put those data together. So you can merge, I don't know, mesh with point clouds. You can use the manual registration for point clouds or texture 3D models with models which architects give you, the OBJ file or something like that. So it's quite bright feature experience.
Thanks, Marco, for filling in. There's a lot of combination you can use this on. We have seen a lot of examples where people use different coordinate systems, and we all know how difficult it is to work with that. You have to combine that and translate that. Now it really makes it so much easier.
And exactly.
Yeah. Now I would like to give you some more, a bit of how to call it, sugar stuff. So this is additional visualization tools. We're back at this point cloud that I showed you before. It was done in several takes, and now with the visualization of scanning time on the laser scans, you can see which one was done the first and which one was done the last, or you can see the whole sequence, how it went. So we started with that blue one down here, made our way up or down here, and then we got to the orange one on the outside, went down here, and then this green one was done, and then there's purple here, and the last one was the attic, the uppermost level. So this will, of course, you have to have a scanner that supports this output, but most of scanners do. The other attributes that we now show is intensity. So this will give you the value how intense the rebound was. As you know, different materials rebound laser emitted from the scanner differently. So you have here blue is the least of the rebound and gray is the most. So it's interesting to see all cars are bluish, except for this one. It's kind of suspicious. And here in the basement, you can see it's a lot more orangey, and so on. Well, this has most of the low values on it. But you can, for example, where we could use this one is in mining. If you are scanning some sort of tunnel or ditch, you could see where the water comes in and the walls are moist. This will definitely have different intensity value, and you can have a heads up if there is a water break in before, but it's not very visual. So that's one thing. And perhaps for the old facade, when the damage is, it's easy to see the damage that's not perhaps visible to the naked eye or to the human light. Very much open field, a lot of ideas still coming in. So we are also curious what you may use this one for. And the last visualization that I wanted to share with you is the classic return value. So you probably all know LiDAR scan, airborne LiDAR scans. This one is just the national LiDAR scan of Slovenian countryside, and it will give you the idea how many return values the aircraft got from the each laser beam that was sent out. Here on the open field, of course, it just had one rebound and that's it. And here in the forest, the beam bounced back and forth a couple of times, and we got values from 2 to 7 here between the leaves and the branches. And this gives way to new classification tools and similar stuff. Okay, Marco, did you want to add anything on this note?
Well, I think you added, you explained most of it. I would just say it's again universal, works also with DJI L1, L2. If you have those kind of devices, you can bring now your data and see the number of return and all other stuff. So that's most of it. I would go to ortophoto from point cloud. So not to
exactly.
be too long with our presentation. A lot of interesting stuff, but
you know, it's a scan module. It's a lot. It's a lot packed in that module. We're very proud of what were able to produce. So this again is a neat feature. If you sometimes have very nice scans, but you know, it's not all about 3D. Sometimes you just need an easy 2D image out of it. So that's now a possibility. Let's say we want to get those images from this wall inside of this castle to export to a simple 2D image. We would go to ortophoto, select custom plane, and now we will just define this box that will encompass all of what we are interested in. So you see there are some photos on the wall, but you cannot really see what's on them because, you know, the point cloud is still a bit too sparse. And now make sure you select everything you need and not much more. Like that, I think it will be good. And then you have a couple of more options here. Most important is resolution. I'll just keep it on default and see what happens. I was playing around with this one before, so I have a couple of photos here. And this one will take 10-15 seconds. So let's see if I was correct with that estimation.
And we are projecting the orthophoto from the orange plane.
Yeah. Okay, so these are the images on that wall. I see I could have used a bit higher resolution. You can see the pixel size is a bit big, but anyways, that's what we got out of that wall. And before I also tried the outside wall and the inside sort of altar. Yeah, it's not, don't be confused. It's not on the level of photogrammetry orthophotos, obviously, which are, photorealism, but it is useful to get 2D image out of these complex 3D models. Okay, and this is scan module. So there's a lot more details in each of those functionalities, but we'll get onto them with special tutorials just for each and every feature we just presented. But roughly, this is it.
Okay, perfect, Mattia. Let's go back to my screen and just quick recap. So we saw most of the general 3D survey improvements. Currently, we finished with the complex scan module. And now I would like to show you the RTK videogrammetry model. So this is our second model, which is attaching to the main license, 3D survey license. And if I go back to the web page, you find the description of this model here under the product and RTK videogrammetry. So the complete idea is to use your phone, do a short video. It can be a minute, 30 seconds, or anything like that. Record the video with 3D survey site scan app, and later on process this geotagged video in 3D survey with a RTK video module. And here you can see where we see the possibility to use this technology is just a quick site documentation. If you have any open holes where they are, I don't know, repairing water pipes, sewer pipes, power lines, optical cables, anything like that, what's open, and you would just like to quickly document it before they close it down, you can really easily do it. So the SiteScan app works also without the external RTK antenna, but if you have it, it's just much easier because we can geotag the recorded video with a centimeter high precision, and later on the calculated model, it's immediately scaled and orientated. Okay. I will show you on a real project a bit later on. The RTK scan apps looks like so. Here you have a recording button, and here you have the accuracy during the recording. So with the help of external entry, NetRip app, you're connecting to the updates of the GNSS device, and then we take this position and write the recorded video during the recording, and later on you can import this video in 3D survey and process it to 3D model. So here we have a lot of interesting information. Check it out. Here is also the complete white paper we created for you, so you can see how it works, what's the acceptable accuracy, what can you achieve. You can additionally use ground control points to increase the accuracy if you like, but we see this really on position where you need a quick documentation, not maybe so accurate, but more that you see if the power line cables go under the water pipe or over the water pipe, if there are 3 cables or 2 cables and anything like that. But yes, let me show you how this looks, everything. So when you are on the field, I think here I have a one recorder video. You do the recording of the video with a 3D survey SiteScan app. It looks like so. We eliminate the stabilization of the video. That's why it's a bit blurry, but this helps to later with the accuracy. In a 30-second, you record the video. In this case, we also use external RTK antenna device, which improve the data acquisition. As you can see it here, the complete video is approximately 50 seconds. I can show you also here where you can find that kind of antenna. So probably the most affordable is this one from the Ardu Simple. It costs 407 euros, the external RTK antenna, but you have the number of another option also. So Red Catch from Germany has one option and so on. So feel free to decide it. What's important, Android phone should be Android based. So for now, we don't cover the iOS options and so on. And then when you connect this via Bluetooth, you record the video. The video has geotext, and when you open the 3Dsurvey and go to image, extract image from video, you just need to browse it to your file. So for example, here is my video from the field. I click open. Then you can browse it and select your folder where you would like to have your extracted frames. Let's select folder, and then what you need to select here, you can set any of these types, but as a first selection we advise you to use telemetry mode option, because telemetry mode option means that we will search for frames which are the closest to the telemetry which was written, because when we record the video we write 2 telemetry positions per second. Okay, then we also warmly advise you to walk slowly, not too fast, and this everything will improve the accuracy. More and everything you have in a tutorial how to do it on our webpage and so on. And nevertheless, support is also there. So when I click OK here, we are going to extract the selected frames in this video. And this is quite fast. Let's wait a couple of more seconds. Okay, of course, coordinate system, Slovenia, import. Okay, and if we see here the telemetry table, let's spend a couple of seconds this one. Here you can see now the precision of horizontal around 1 centimeter and vertical around 2 centimeters with the external RTK antenna. So very nice. This is my location. Let's zoom in a bit with a standard view. So this is how we were recording this one. If I go to telemetry view, toggle takes off, you can see already calculated camera positions. Sorry, not calculated. Those are camera position based on telemetry data. Everything works, looks nice. And if I open my already calculated project, not to spend too much time, after the bundle adjustment, as far as you already know, you get first result, so-called sparse point cloud. Maybe let's return to previous project. So in the bundle adjustment, what we advise you here, leave everything on the default, just the orientation mode, set it to no. Okay, because we don't want to push too much the cameras to exact telemetry positions. We would like to use the power of photogrammetry to align the cameras together, and then just 7 parametric push them on the telemetry positions. In case the antenna signal is not the perfect one, not to damage the model. So based on our experience, this is the best approach. Again, this is all in tutorial. You don't need to know this one, but this is it. Then when I click OK, it starts bundle adjustment, and first result, sparse point cloud, then skip the orientation, immediately reconstruction, and you get that kind of reconstructed point cloud from this one. Next step is texture 3D mesh. Let's wait a couple of seconds. If I turn cameras in addition, you can see what kind of model do we get from those cameras. And I would say if you need to document something super quickly in a 1 minute on a field, this is kind of perfect result. Okay, before you probably record 10 points on a field with your GNSS device, now you have here scaled and orientated 3D models. You can immediately go here pipeline in cat, set your new layer, okay, thickness, and start drawing immediately, vectorizing out. The same as with the traditional photogrammetry, you have drawing on image support here, so if you need to be even more precise, and I just vectorize it super quickly, this line, okay? I didn't move it to the right layer, but not a problem. So hopefully you get an idea how it works. Some of you maybe already tried out in this testing period. Know this is official. You can purchase also this model via 3Dsurvey web store. And yes, feel free to check it out. Mattia, Vid, did I forgot something maybe with videogrammetry? Oh, you need to unmute your...
Yeah, I think that was it, but we still had a lot of interesting questions. Some of them we already answered, but we can and some more questions are also coming up.
Okay, very good. Before we go to questions, yes, feel free to add them. Before we go to question, we have a last slide or last infos. So if you go to 3Dsurvey page under Insights, News, we have also special promotion because this is a big release. We are releasing general improvements of 3Dsurvey version. We have new strategy, 2 new models, Scan and RTK videogrammetry are in a group of 3Dsurvey products. So as you can see it, we did it very nicely. Again, everything in a single software, no 2 additional softwares or 3 softwares. This is everything in a single software. You just purchase the model and immediately you get additional you get the buttons which are unlocked and you can use it. And if you go here on the 3Dsurvey 3.0 special promotions and scroll down, you can see it here. We have a 30-day launch promotion for the perpetual license. So maybe some of you already know the price for the 3Dsurvey will increase. So if you are still deciding if buy or not, buy it now. It's going to be 400 euros cheaper, okay? After the 27th of July, the license will cost 3,400 euros. So use this opportunity, purchase it now, and it's just the same power of the software for more affordable money, okay? So this is the first promotion. Don't hesitate to buy it. The second promotion, for the 1 month, we have 50% of discount or both modules, okay? So on scan model and videogrammetry model. You can purchase it for single month, 2 month, 3 month. If you purchase it for 12 month, the 12 month you pay it for 10, so you get additional discount for 2 months. So this is the second promotion. Then upgrade.
Yeah, that's 50 off. That's like 50%.
Yeah,
Half cheaper.
50.
That's amazing.
Very good. So you can find all this in a pricing here, okay? So these are already prices with the promotions and so on. Okay, then the third one, upgrade and support. Within 1 month, you still have the old price also for upgrade and support. So it's actually 540 euros. So if you need to upgrade your version to 3.0, feel free to do it now. I think it's a good decision that you stay in a loop and you get all those functions which were presented for the ordinary price, okay? And nevertheless, all 3Dsurvey trial users or existing 3Dsurvey users which still don't have the 3.0 version, they can also do the free trial of 3.0 versions and with both models, okay? Before it was quite limited because the trial is assigned to the email and you couldn't test it. We improved the complete system on, so you have option to activate also the trial, even if you have 2.17 version or something like that. You can check out all things also for 3.0 version. After the trial period is over, if you don't purchase, you need to downgrade the version. Okay, don't forget this one. So these are our special promotions. Feel free to use them. If you have some questions, write them on info@3dsurvey.si or on support@3dsurvey.si, and we will help you out. But most of the informations you should find also on our webpage. Okay, I think these were promotion. Mattia, Vit, would you like to add something before we go to quick poll for our users and then questions?
I think we covered it.
We covered it. Okay, then 3 short questions for all attendees. We have a great number of people here, so let's start with the first one. I will launch the poll, and the question is, which improvement did you like the best? So first one is scan model, RTK videogrammetry model, new coordinate system, automatic machine deactivation, and clip function. Okay, 35%, 37% of you voted. It's going quickly up. We have, yes, let's wait, 45%. Let's take 10 more seconds. Okay, 50% of you already voted. 3, 2, 1. I'm closing this poll down. Close, and I will share results with you. Okay, super interesting. Number 1, RTK videogrammetry model. 49% of you like this feature the most. Very interesting, I would say. Let's check it out, test it out. You can do it also without the external RTK antenna. Even maybe if you have some tablet, like, I don't know, Trimble tablet, or I don't know, from any other provider which have a RTK antenna and the tablet is Android based, you can maybe check it out if our app works on it. The most we tested are the Simple and RedCatch device, but we have feedback that it works also on other Android devices. So check it out. Thank you for this feedback. Number 2 is scan model, and number 3 are new coordinate system support. Very good. Thank you for this one. Let's continue with second. Yes?
Yeah, the modules are
number 1 and 2. Thank you. We're super happy about this. Okay, the second question, let's launch it. Do you see? Oh, I don't see the complete question. Let me
I can help you out, Marco.
Yes, please.
The question is, do you see potential for using scan module in your workflows? So there's a potential in using the scan module. Perhaps you're thinking about buying a scanner and you had that drawback that you didn't have the software, but now you do. So if there's potential, just...
Okay, 50% already voted. Let's wait a couple of more seconds. 55%, and 3, 2, 1. Let's close the poll and share results with you. Okay, 54% yes, 38 maybe, some of them no. Very good. Super interesting, super positive feedback for us. Let's go on. And last but not least, similar question for RTK videogrammetry model. Do you see potential for using RTK videogrammetry model in your workflows? Okay, you're super quick, 50% already voted. Very good, 60% of you, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I will close the poll, share results with you. Okay, 74% yes, 20% maybe, and 6% no. Thank you for this data. We are happy to see that kind
those
of
who
feedback.
answered, maybe you can just download the trial and check it out and see for yourself if it's useful for you.
Exactly. Exactly. And if you have some questions, know it's definitely the right timing. Set your questions. We will start answer those questions in a minute. We are already 1 hour, 10 minutes on this webinar. If you are in a rush or something like that, you can leave it. Otherwise, now is the most interesting part when we do one-on-one questions and answers. Again, if you need to leave it, thank you for joining. We will continue right with the answers. One more thing, the webinar is recorded, still recording, so you will get the link for the recording if you missed something right at the beginning, or if something was not clear enough, you can check it out later, and that's it. And yes, let's maybe start with questions. Wheat, are you willing to start it maybe?
Yes, of course. So during the presentation, I actually already answered most of the questions, but we can go through most interesting ones together, I think.
Yeah, let's do that.
There are a few that I haven't answered, but you have answered this one. So the first was from Elias. He was asking, do you have RTK antenna you can recommend to work with the module? So maybe you can answer that one again, Marco.
Yes, so can you still see my screen?
Yes.
No, there's
okay.
the quick
So
tool.
if you go under simple, so this is the most affordable device actually. We tested, cost 407 euros. So
Marco, I think you need to share your screen because it's still showing the poll.
Oh, yes,
Yeah, just
let's
finish
hide
the
this
poll.
one.
Yeah,
Exactly. Sorry. So here you can see the most affordable solution is from Ardo Simple RTK handheld surveying kit. It costs 407 euros. You get them with instructions. You download. All the instructions are also on our web page. So I think if you download this file, you have the complete workflow. So here you have an entry app, and here you have a 3D survey side scan, and then you need to do some mock application. You will spend probably 15 minutes or 30 minutes to set it up first time, and later on is just click connect, turn on the 3D survey side scan, and start measuring. Okay, so I will start with something like that, but nevertheless, if you have something already, you can send us the type of your device, antenna, and we can check it out maybe, and so on. Okay, Vit?
Okay, then there's a question from Michelle. He's asking, do you have a function to semi-auto-detect quarry crests and foots? So actually with the next update, coming probably sometime around IntelliGeo, we will have a new update for function that automatically detects rake lines. But secondly, even today, you can create vertical cross sections or profiles, and then you can add points to those profiles. So you can place points on the crests and foots of the quarries and stuff like that. So I would say yes, but if you would like to go into more detail, you can write us an email and we can schedule an online meeting and talk about it. Right. Okay, let's continue. Now here's one. Hello, here is Bach from Germany. Do you sell 3D survey with module for lifetime?
Unfortunately not. So modules are not perpetual, they are subscription based, so you can rent them per monthly or per yearly base. I think maximum is that you can purchase them 3 years in upfront, and that's it. So but if you would like to decide just to have the 1 month, 1 month no, again 1 month, you can do everything like that. But it's kind of hybrid system. So the 3D survey perpetual license is lifetime license. The modules are as an add-on available. And to start with modules, you need to have at least 3.0 version. Okay. So this is important. If you have 2.18 version, you are not able to start your modules like scan or RTK videogrammetry. So you need first to upgrade to 3.0, and then you can use those available models. In future, this is not going to be necessary to always upgrade it to 4.0, 5.0. It's need to be you need to start with 3.0, where the model story start with us. Okay.
Yeah, and let's say it again that right now we're running a promotion for a cheaper upgrade if you're behind.
Okay. Then there was a question from Andrew. He said, I see you can add modules to order, but how can I add them to existing subscription?
Okay, so simply you go under the 3Dsurvey webpage, you log in with your account, use please the email, the license is attached to it. So if I log in with my email, I have number of licenses because tester and everything like that. And for example, if I take my perpetual license, I can purchase additional model to this license. So it goes like this way. I select the purchase, and here is my scan model, and I go to checkout, and that's it. If you don't have this option here, probably the issue is that you have a 2.80 version or older one. So what you need first to do, upgrade it to 3.0, or if you like to trial the models, use this button, enable trial models, and you will get the trial models on your license, and that's it. If you will have issues, please contact us on info or support email.
Okay, then there was a question again from Michelle. He said, regarding automatic scan registration, what about moving objects like the leaves from trees moving in the wind between two scans? Is there a specific setting regarding the selection of the common points used? The algorithm, it has a certain parameter for how close the points need to be together in order for them to be considered. Leaves moving in the trees, I'm not sure. That could already be a problem because I think that parameter is a few centimeters in size. So what do you guys think?
What I would say here, if we are talking about the automatic registration, is I would say that basis for automatic registrations are planes. And the algorithm works super nice if you have 3 different planes. So let's planes like horizontal planes, like ground plane with asphalt or something like that, and then maybe 2 planes for the facade, building facade, which are perpendicular or not. So, and if you have this kind of condition, the algorithm works perfectly. What we figure out also is that it's because of this reason, it's not working so perfectly with drone data, because usually with drone data you cover open pit mines, or maybe you don't have a lot of side images and you don't have facade and anything like that. So it's actually more stable with the terrestrial scanners. But nevertheless, you always have manual registration options where you decide which are the identical point and align those together and then check it out.
Okay, so the questions are coming in a lot faster than we can answer them. Here's an interesting one at the top. Are there any plans in adding CAD options in the future, for example, 3-point circles?
3-point circles is available in, I think, in 3Dsurvey Float Viewer. Yes. Thank you for remarks. So we can write this one. Of course, in our plan is always updating the CAD engine, because this is one of the core feature of 3Dsurvey. It's nevertheless one pack solution where we would like that you bring your results close to the end or to the end. And yes, let's write those one on to-do list also in addition, which is already a long one, but yes, we will mark this one.
Okay, then we have, can you introduce notifications about completed results generation in the program? For example, via email or messenger.
Good one.
Okay, we talked already about this one. What we would like to do before is to speed up the processing, that you don't need to wait for the email. But yes, we are fighting with this one already now. But yeah, but also the email notifications are also nice.
Then we have, hi, do you perhaps plan to add indoor classification to scan module that would recognize, for example, furniture installation, etc.? This is like
Interesting.
AI-based classification. We will probably be going into this direction, but we were more focusing on the outside areas.
Exactly, exactly. So there is some development already ongoing, like AI classification. So advanced classification with AI, but mainly on exterior. So to do the classification on houses, roofs, facades, cars, ground, and so on. But not so actually, not on close plan. It's not to do the interior AI classification.
Then Olivia is asking, is it compliant with StoneX S580 GNSS RTK receiver? Do you have accessories for it? I'm not sure we are familiar with this model of the GPS. If it can connect to a handheld phone and if it can be used to share the GPS location with the phone, that it will probably work, but we definitely don't have holders that you can use with that antenna to mount it on the phone. I think you should get that from StoneX maybe, or from a similar.
Maybe let me Google it. Maybe this is a tablet with a RTK antenna. Okay.
Oh yeah.
S580. Let's check this one. Oh no. Yeah, it's actually external RTK antenna. Yeah, and there is a holder available. I would say, why not? So if you have option, check it out.
Yeah, we can see that it connects via Bluetooth, so I think it should work.
Yes, check it out. Definitely for now, we don't have any experience, but worth to test it out. Okay. Vit, can we continue maybe?
Yeah, I'm going through the questions, the ones that haven't been answered yet. So here we have a question, what was used to create the indoor mapping?
Okay, the indoor mapping, it was SLAM device. So SLAM scanner, actually. I think it was from Faro or something like that, Faro Orbis.
Okay.
This is from Matthias Zupan part, from the scan, where we do floor plans and everything like that.
I think that's Faro.
Yes.
Okay, then there's a question, I'm not sure if I know the answer to. It's, will it be possible to process laser scanning data as it is in the case with Leica Cyclone? So I'm not 100% familiar with the Leica Cyclone because we don't work a lot with Leica products. So with 3Dsurvey, it will be possible to process point clouds coming from any laser scanner. But for that scanner, you first need to convert the raw scanner data into LAS or maybe E57 data format so that 3Dsurvey will then be able to open it. after the 3D survey can open it, you can do with that scanner anything in 3D survey that we have feature for. So
yeah, exactly. So this raw processing of a point cloud generation you need to do in the scanner software, and then if you can export out as a point cloud, you can continue with no limitation in 3D survey. Okay.
So I think we covered most of the answers that we haven't answered in text yet, but we can now go, if you like, we can go really quickly to some which I already answered in the text during the presentation.
Maybe just the most interesting one, not to spend too
Yeah,
much
there
time.
were a few about coordinate systems, like do you have support for Belgium 2008 coordinate system? Yes, of course. Is there LV available? Yes, of course it is. LV, I think that is, I don't want to get this one wrong again. I think LV is Latvia.
It's Lithuania or
Litva.
Latvia.
Litva.
Okay.
I know how to say it in.
Both of them are covered. If
Yeah,
not, feel free to
It's
contact us.
Lithuania.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
because it's called Litva in Lithuanian, then I can never translate it to English.
Okay, then guys, are we ready to say thank you for listening? Thank you for your time. Or would you like to share something in addition, Ian?
Well, yeah, I think we're good. Thank you for such great attendance. I think it was a very successful webinar. I hope you got all the answers from us. If you missed the beginning, there's a recording of it. It will be available soon. Yeah.
Okay.
That's all.
Thank you also from my side. See you in next webinar. Let's see where it is, when it is. But thank you for today. And I would just wish you a happy 3D surveying. Use the power of this technology, and we are happy for you there. Thank you.
See you on
Thank
the
you.
next one.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.